enough confidence in the things that I know. I have enough wisdom to see the logic will be shown. I got one chance to show you what I got. I got one chance to show I'm confident or not. Self-evident reason, deductions and conclusions, and the fools are running away. It's not what you say, it's only what you can prove. You better watch your step, you better mind your P's and Q's. You got one chance, show me what you got. You got one chance to show you confident or not. Don't get caught in the matrix of all of these fakers. Society's spinning, and I'm just here living on the ground. Self-evident reason, deductions and conclusions, logically thinking, and the fools are running away. You're flipping over backwards to show me where you think you are. Your model dictates that you never see too far. Shrinking in the distance, you can do fuck all with an angle, and the fools are running away.
And we are live. Welcome everybody. It is Wednesday, so that means it's Trivium Day. But we have a special guest today. Normally you would be the I don't know, like I think Wednesday is the best day for this anyway, Trivium. So today we have Beddy here, who is going to be doing a presentation for Eratosthenes. I think paper says it better. But so we're going to be going over that now. Beddy has prepared us. He sent me the Euclidean principles we're going with, aren't we, with this entire presentation? So I mean, it would lie within the trivium where we get the words, propositions, and the statements, and the presentation.
Actually, the quadrivium, but
well, fine. I know the geometry's within the quadrivium, but I mean, in order to get
the astronomy,
the trivium. Okie dokie. Are you ready to go over it now? Then do you want to?
Yeah, I'm ready to go. Do you want to show? Because I can't see it on the screen. Can you show the set of assumptions? I've got the diagram there.
Set of assumptions.
There's another.
There you go.
There's another image with the 6 assumptions.
Okie dokie.
All I can see is the diagram.
On the screen, on the YouTube.
On the YouTube, I can see the diagram. I can't see the
You might have to wait for it to catch up. It is on the 6.
That's a bit small, isn't it? Can everyone read that?
Yeah, I can read it, but you're going to be reading it out, aren't you?
I'm going to be reading. Yeah, sure. Okay, so Well, hello everyone. What I propose to do today is I'm not going to give an argument or a proof because I don't do that, as you know. What I'm going to do is present Eratosthenes' proof as it was originally. Okay, I'm going to present in English, but I have referred to the Latin translation and to the original Greek, assuming that it's authentic. I'm going to give, here we can see the 6 assumptions, which Eratosthenes gives. Then I'm going to go through his argument in his words, translated into English, that proves what he wants to establish, which is the circumference of the Earth. I'm not going to give anything myself, no proof for myself. I'm just presenting it precisely as this ancient Greek presented it. Is that okay?
Yeah, I say you are using Euclidean principles, and you are going to link to the propositions.
I am presenting his argument exactly as he presents it.
Okay. Well, I mean, I've never heard it presented exactly as he presented it, so this should be enlightening.
No, you haven't, because I checked up a lot of these sort of internet presentations about the argument, and a lot of them are not correct. For example, a lot of them mention a well at Syene, which is modern day Aswan. Eratosthenes never mentioned a well. He used, in both occasions, he used the idea of a sundial or a logician. But I'll come on to that. Okay, so the six propositions, which are assumptions, they may be wrong, but let's take them as given and see what logically follows from them. So the first proposition 1, assumption 1. Syene and Alexandria lie under the same meridian. Now, are we all comfortable what a meridian is?
No, go on, you explain that.
Right, explain a meridian. Sorry, what did you say, Bev?
Said it. Can you please explain it fully? There may be people out there that don't. So
that's fine. I'll explain it. So a meridian, which is from the Latin. From the Greek, mesembrino, means noon. That's all it means. It just means noontime. Noontime, by definition, is the time when the sun is at the highest in the sky. And 2 locations that lie under the same meridian are locations where noon occurs at exactly the same time. That's all it means. Does that make sense?
Wouldn't that be the same place?
No.
What, like noon being a time?
Yeah, noon is a time, but if I go directly south along the same line of longitude, noontide, the time of noon will be the same. It's only when you go east and west that the time changes. As you go west, noon occurs later and later. As you go east, it gets earlier. So under the same meridian means 2 points where noon occurs at exactly the same time.
Well, see, it sounds weird that, because noon is at the same time here, and I bet somebody else has noon at the same time at noon, right? That's when noon is.
What we mean by noon is the time at which is the time at which the sun is at the highest point in the sky. That's what noon is.
Yeah, I understand that. Yeah.
So I'm nearly on the meridian, the Greenwich meridian. If we go directly south to some place, I don't know, in France or Spain, is at the same, that is also at 0 degrees longitude. And I see the sun at its highest point in the sky at noon. That person in Spain or France or whatever will see the sun at the highest point at the same time. Imagine we're on the phone together and I'm talking to that person in Spain. They've got, I don't know, a sextant or something, or a telescope. I say, yeah, the sun is at the highest point. I can see it at the highest point. And that person will say, yeah, too true.
Yeah, about 12 o'clock.
Same for me. Time. Not dinner time, noontime. Sun at the highest point.
Yeah, but at the same time.
If I phone someone in New York and I say, well, it's noon now, the sun is at the highest point, they'll say, no, it's I don't know, New York's 5 hours difference. It's quite
Yeah,
low
it's
in the
not.
sky.
They'd say it's not noon yet.
Yeah, they would say, let's be clear, they would say, no, the sun is not at the highest point. Don't confuse local time, which is by time zone, with what the sun is up to.
I wouldn't know anybody that mentions that. But I mean, yeah, that if that's what you mean, when the sun is at the highest point in the sky.
Yes. Being under the same meridian means two places where at the very same time the sun is at its highest point. Or if in modern terms you're on the same longitude.
And by what means did they communicate, please?
Good point. You mean, how did they know it was the same? How did they know that Syene and Alexandria were on the same meridian?
It was
correct?
noon.
No, that doesn't. Yeah, I mean, you can be somewhere far west and you'll still have noon. The question is, how do you know the time? How do you know the time at which the sun is at its highest point? Answer:
It's noon.
the ancient Greeks worked out when an eclipse was going to occur, and they reasoned that an eclipse must occur for everyone at the same time. And the people in the Far East, in Asia, reported when the eclipse occurred by their own clocks. The Greeks reported when it occurred by their own clocks, and they found, wow, there's a difference. They were reporting the time of the eclipse in clock time was earlier in the East. Or later.
I think you misunderstood the question. How did they communicate where the shadows were at any given moment between those two cities?
They didn't communicate. They didn't need to.
It was
Why
noon.
would they need to?
Essie, it was noon.
It was noon.
It was noon
Yeah,
at both of the times at noon.
Essie, I was trying to explain how they knew that two different cities were at the same longitude. Given that they had no accurate clocks, they didn't have Greenwich Mean Time, they didn't have computer clocks or crystal clocks then. They just had local time. So the only way they could find out, the only way they knew whether two cities, different cities, were at the same longitude was because they'd done this before. They'd worked out the difference in local time between these places by means of eclipses.
Could they not do that with Polaris? Could they not see Polaris?
No, that wouldn't work.
Why?
Because
it would be a fixed light in the sky that both of the things would have been able to see, right?
Oh, right. Polaris gives you your latitude. It doesn't give you your longitude.
Mm-hmm.
So did they have accurate timepieces in those days to figure out?
No, that's my whole point. They didn't have accurate timepieces. They had local time only, and they had the sun. So they could work out what time of day it was just by getting the angle to the sun, which they could compute quite accurately using a sundial, an orologian. So they could tell the local time. They could tell the time by the sun. But you can see a problem there, right? Or can you?
I can see many problems, but go ahead.
The problem is that if you tell the time using the sun, you will only get the same time as someone else. So two people, I don't know, in Syene, one in Syene, one in Alexandria. How do they know? They've got their local time. They've got their sun time using a sundial, but unless they're at the same longitude, the time at which they note noon is not necessarily the same.
Okay, so right, I'm in Athens now. I look at the sun and I get a shadow, right? And you're in Syene. You look up, it's noon, and you get a shadow. Okay, then what?
Right.
Yeah, we're still working on the assumptions, right? That was just the first assumption, Beddy. I don't want you to get tied down on.
Well, it's an interesting question because it's all a question of how do you time stuff? How do you measure time? If all you've got is the sun to measure time by, and if the
why are they doing time?
Why do they need to know time?
Yeah,
in order to know longitude.
But I thought it's like this is Eratosthenes isn't doing like geometry then or anything. It's doing some sort of time thing.
This is part of the geometry. Well, we'll come on to that, but let's just say assumption one. In modern language, the assumption is that Syene and Alexandria lie under the same meridian, i.e. they are at the same longitude. How they knew that is a difficult question and a separate one.
Can I ask why you use the under?
That's just the term they use.
Do you know why?
Just the term they use. Sorry?
Do you know why?
Because they had the idea that the meridian was sort of something in the sky. It was like a great circle in the sky. So if you're under the same meridian, you are under the same great circle of the universe.
Okay, so you're underneath a circle.
Yes, you're underneath a circle in the sky. Or
the sun would be doing a circle.
Yes.
Okay, I'm with you.
You sure?
Yeah, you're underneath a circle. The same
You're underneath
circle.
a circle. Yeah. Okay, the assumption two, the distance between the two cities is 5,000 stadia, which is about 500 miles or 800 kilometers.
Thrown a contention there, but I don't think they know what a stadia.
Yeah, that's a good. That's a very good point, and I investigated this because some accounts you read, they said they had people, forgotten the name.
Professional pacers.
Professional pacers. They would walk distances, and they'd have such an accurate conception of the size of their pace.
Stride, an accurate and steady stride,
and a dead straight line as well. Obviously,
yeah, dead straight,
not wobbling.
Which is difficult, and I don't believe they use that method.
It's near impossible, isn't it?
It's near impossible to get an accurate. Plus, Aswan and Alexandria. If you go in a straight line between the two, you're going across a very hot desert, where there's lots of sand, and it's very hard to pace the whole thing. So we have to rule that out. And for the same reason, we rule out. I think Archimedes invented some sort of wheel thing where you push the wheel, like which would measure the distance across the ground for you. But they didn't have those in Eratosthenes days. You can sail up the Nile or down. But the Nile is very wiggly, so computing the actual distance is not going to be accurate at all. So I looked into
second assumption, at best. Second assumption.
It's an assumption. Yeah, and the main point here is, let's say, given those assumptions, what exactly follows from it. But now I'll just add.
We do know a measurement nowadays, right? That distance is known now. So we can sort of say,
it's known in various ways, but we won't go there. In fact, it is roughly 5,000 stadia as it happens. But now I read Strabo, who also gives an account of Eratosthenes' geography, and actually, Eratosthenes got a lot of distances wrong. Point one, two, he seems to have done it. He and other geographers did it just by looking at sort of maps that people have cobbled together. So, in summary, he was probably very lucky that he got a distance that was close, but they didn't, in those days, they did not know distances very well at all.
So the distance between the two cities isn't very accurate by all accounts. Like
the recorded distance between the two cities, they did not know very well. Correct.
Or no, we don't know what they knew.
Well, we know what they said because Strabo has pages and pages and pages of difference between places.
Yeah, but I mean, as far as we know, that could have been 5,000 stadia. That could have been the distance set from Alexandria to Syene. They could have said that is 5,000 stadia.
They could have defined it that, but they didn't.
It would have then have been exact, wouldn't it?
Well, if they defined it that way, but they didn't. The stadium was a standard measurement. The stadium was a standard measurement that they used for all sorts of different places. They didn't make it up.
Like, well, for the stadium then, right? The Roman Colosseum stadium, is that sort of distance.
Sorry, what's the Colosseum got to do with it? Sorry.
It's a stadium.
It's a stadium, yeah.
Yeah. So what sort of a distance to give people an idea? If you've researched it, because I heard that they didn't know what it was. What
They didn't know very
is
well.
about a stadia?
Yeah, 5,000 stades is about 500 miles. So it's a tenth of a mile.
Okay.
I don't think anybody knows what a stadia is for sure, as far as I'm aware.
No, they don't.
Well, we know we can make a good guess because cities like Rome and Athens, and these other places are still there, right? And we now know the distance between them, and we know what they reported the distances to be. So you can know what a starting was.
Reverse engineering, assuming we have the right number. All right. Well, I can give you that one.
Give me that one. Okay. Yeah. I mean, Strabo gives hundreds of locations and distances between them. We say, right, those locations are still there. Rome is still there, right? Lots of these places are still there. Maunus and
But at
Turkey
best, we
still
have
is.
2 assumptions thus far, correct?
Yep, correct. Which may
All
not
right.
be. Which may not. In fact, Syene and Alexandria don't lie on the same longitude. Syene is a little further west, I think. Or was it further east? So even that they got wrong. Assumption 3. Yeah.
Well, at least you're honest so far. We're doing good.
I investigate stuff, SC. I look at things very carefully. I don't believe anything I read on the internet. I don't always believe stuff I read in books. I go right back to the sources. And if there's a problem there, a mistake, I recognize that. Yeah.
Okay, kudos. Continue, please.
Assumption 3, rays, and I guess you guys are not going to like this. He assumes rays from different parts of the sun on different parts of the earth are parallel.
Sorry for that's one of my favorite ones. I'm sorry. I'll try to be quiet. I can't though.
Yeah.
Oh, we can discuss it a bit if you want. I mean, that's what he assumes. They had reasons for believing that, although it's
Okay.
it's
Then
quite
let me
hard to
ask you
find
one
evidence.
question, and I'll be quiet.
Yeah.
The sun, your sun in your model, they say is a sphere, correct?
Well, the sun is a point of light. Yeah, it's a light
actually,
emitter.
now you've said it's a circle above.
Yeah. I'll even take a circle if you agree to that. Works either way.
Whatever. I mean, it doesn't.
Okay, either a circle or a sphere. I put this question to you.
It doesn't.
Can?
It's not relevant to the argument. So.
But it is. You haven't heard my question, but it is.
All right. Okay.
So take either one, a sphere or a circle. Can any of those 2 shapes, you can call them that, can they cast parallel rays?
No. Not exactly parallel because the sun is not a point, is it?
Thank you.
It appears as a circle.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, I'll stay quiet now.
Right. Yeah.
Well, can I just add though that you did say earlier that they're under the same meridian, and when you said under, I said what's that, and you said that's a circle. So the sun is they thought is under the same meridian. It's under a circle. So would they actually have ever thought that the light would be parallel if it was going around a circle above them?
Exactly my point.
But
Yes.
I mean, like that would ruin the entire process of the geometry bit. So I presume that's why they have parallel, right? But that doesn't fit, Beddy, at all. That's not logical.
Let's add to that assumption that at any particular time in 2 different places, the rays of light falling on one place and the rays of light falling on the other place will be parallel. Obviously, if we're at different times, then the rays won't. You know, if it's 5 o'clock in one place and 8 o'clock in the other, then that will no longer be true. Okay. But at any particular time,
so they would actually be taking these measurements at the same time or at different times.
They assumed. Number 4 is an assumption. They assume that straight lines that rays from different parts of the sun are parallel at any particular time.
That's just a geometric one. That's probably the one that is. That's not need to be an assumption. That one, is it?
It has to be an assumption, yeah. Because look at assumption 4.
Yeah, I
Assuming
say
the
that's
rays
not
are
an
parallel,
assumption for straight lines falling on parallel straight lines make alternate angles equal. That is straight from Euclid. That's not an assumption.
It's proposition 129, and just understand that the proof of one argument, the conclusion of one argument, which is 129, can be used as the assumption or the premise for another argument. It's just a premise. We're taking that assumption from Euclid. That's all it means.
But no, that's a proof within Euclid. You're assuming that those straight lines, the parallel straight lines would be the light. That's the assumption, isn't it?
Not quite sure what you mean.
Well, the Euclidean proof, straight lines falling on parallel straight lines make the alternate angles equal.
Yeah, we're just taking that as
an
given.
Assumption. Yeah.
It is an assumption. Clear. Okay,
No,
I'm not. All right, it's not. It's not an assumption.
Proposition.
I'm not going to argue.
No, the assumption is you're relating those parallel straight lines to the light, isn't it?
Yep. Shall we move on?
Yeah.
I'll skip over 5 because it's not actually that important. Arcs subtended by equal angles are similar. I have added this. 2 objects are similar. They have the same shape. Or one has the same shape as the mirror image.
The arcs aren't necessarily, similar.
Arcs
They would have to.
Arcs subtended by equal angles are similar.
But no, the lengths of the arms would also have to be. Otherwise, if you've got one that's got an arm 2 inches long and one that's got an arm 10 inches long, they would not be similar at all.
Read the part in brackets.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but you just said there, arcs subtended by equal angles are similar. Well, they're not.
Why aren't they similar?
Because the arc is subtended by the arm. The arc has to be made by the length of the arm. So you would also have to tag in the lengths of the arms of the angles have to be also similar.
So is your point that suppose I have arms of 1 inch, right?
Mm-hmm.
And an angle of 30 degrees.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have another arc which is also 30 degrees, but the arms are 12 inches.
Mm-hmm.
Can we visualize that?
Yep.
And you're saying they're not similar?
The arc would be obviously different.
Right.
The longer one would have a longer arc. The angle would be exactly the same because you've said the angle's the same.
The angles are the same, but they're not necessarily the same size.
Mm-hmm. They're not the same.
The figures might be larger, but they might be scaled up. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think there's a misunderstanding here about the meaning of the word similar.
Why?
I did give a definition of similar.
2 objects are similar.
Sorry.
So the object isn't the angle. The object would be the length of the arms to be similar.
It says the arcs are similar.
Mm-hmm. And in order for the arcs to be similar, the lengths of the arms would have to be similar.
Okay, if that's what you but yeah, I think you're disagreeing with the definition of similarity as it's used in geometry.
Maybe the arcs subtended by equal angles are similar. What do you mean by arc? Can we get the term right? Where is the arc?
You've got the arms touching at one point, right? We've got the arms touching at one point. Are you okay with that?
It's an angle, yeah, the vertex.
And then those arms sort of spread out, and then the arc is a part of the circle that joins the 2 ends to the 2 other ends of the arms.
The angle?
No. What do you mean by an arc? What do you understand by an arc?
I know what an angle is, Beddy.
No, I said an arc. I didn't say an angle. I said an arc.
Arc for me would be the arch, the actual compass movement of the pencil. That would be the arc.
That's right. That's correct.
Right, so that would necessarily be in the same radius distance. You would have to add that in to the angle, your statement. Arcs subtended by equal angles are similar. Well, they'd need to have equal radiuses too,
So
in order to be similar.
You'd have to have equal radii to be similar. Is that what you're saying?
Would you not think that?
Well, I don't. But can we take that as an
don't?
assumption?
Okay, let me know.
I'm just using the Euclidean definition of similar.
And where
Someone
is
can
that,
look
the
it up,
Euclidean definition of similar? Can you show us?
Well, I can't because I've got two images I'm talking around.
Mm-hmm.
This assumption is not that important because there are
Is
other ways of
that within
expressing it.
Euclidean geometry, that arcs subtended by equal angles are similar? Where did you get
Right,
that from?
I've got Google up now. So arcs subtended.
Subtended. Did
by
you write
equal
this?
angles. Did I write what?
This arc subtended by. Where did you get it from?
As I said at the beginning, I'm not presenting anything original. I'm saying exactly what Eratosthenes says. He actually writes that. He writes that. He's just copying stuff that they knew from geometry. So I can't find that. We'd have to look up the definition of similar figures. I know, just to be clear.
As far as I know, similarity in geometry is keeping the same proportions.
Correct. Yes, Paper's got it. Thank you, Paper.
Yeah, but you've just said about angles. Like I said, you would need to have the length of the arm to be similar too. In order for them to be similar within geometry, they have to be similar.
The shape is similar. Paper, can you explain to Bev what's meant by this assumption 5?
It means that the proportion between length has to be the same.
Yes. So it's not the same length, but it's the same proportions.
No, it has to be the same length, Beddy.
Okay.
In order to be similar within mathematics, anyway.
You need the same length in order for the proportions of the arc to be the same.
Paper, do you agree with Bev?
I don't know what in that would mean if we are measuring length, curved length of an arc, or we are measuring just like point to point on. I don't know that. So
yes. This reflects your point that you can only measure length with a straight line, correct?
Yes. So that's. For example, similar triangles would be if we have equilateral triangle, we make bigger equilateral triangle, and we know that they are similar.
Correct. Now, can we not do the same? Can we sort of pump up the length of the arms and the length of the arc?
No, you've already stated that the angles are the same. If all you're talking about is the angle, then there's no need to mention the arc.
The angles are equal.
Yeah, exactly. If that's all you're talking about, then
we've got equal angles. We've got two sections of a circle with different radii, but an equal angle, right? Those are similar because if you shrink them, imagination, then they will fit. But if the angles are different, they're not similar. That's all we mean.
So you can have a different radii with the same arc?
As long as the angles are the same.
So just the angles he's talking about.
Oh, just the angle.
It says equal
Circles
angles.
are
there.
always in the proportion of pi, aren't they? So it doesn't matter what. If you're just talking about the angle, you just talk about the angle.
I'm just talking about the angle.
Mhm.
Yeah, correct.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Are we all sort of happy? Right, number 6.
Ecstatic.
Assumption low. Assumption 6. Sine is located below the summer tropical circle. He states it rather weirdly, but all he means is this, that Sine is close to the Tropic of Cancer. At a certain time, when the sun crosses the tropic, shadows will be, there'll be no shadows, and the sun can shine down the bottom of a deep well. That's all he means. I'll come to that when I read out what his actual argument based on these assumptions.
Is that another circle?
Yeah, the Tropic of Cancer. The Tropic of Cancer, which is the most, and I've added this, is the most northerly circle of latitude on Earth, which the sun can be directly overhead. That is a circle, but it's not a great circle. It is a circle.
Great circle?
The Tropic of Cancer is not a great circle, no.
But it is a circle.
But it is a circle.
Can you explain to people the extra qualifier great within your circles?
Yeah, I'm going to come to that because he discusses great circles in a minute.
Jolly good.
Shall I move on?
Yeah. Can I get off this thing now?
Yes, can you show the diagram now, please? Thanks.
The experiment. That one.
It's not an experiment.
That's what you've got on the thing. That's what it says. Eratosthenes experiment.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, it is. Yeah, that's
Okay.
that was a stupid
I was just
title,
checking that it was the right one.
I understand. Yeah.
So are you saying it isn't an experiment?
It's a diagram. Can we just call it a diagram?
Yeah, but it's the diagram that says Eratosthenes experiment.
I'm sorry, that's a silly title. All right, I just said it's a silly title twice.
Okay, so it's not. Okay,
it's just a diagram. Sorry,
it's just a diagram with this title as an experiment. It is not.
It's just
an
a diagram
to help
us. I'm going to go through the words.
Okay.
I am going to go through the actual words that. Mobius says, "How is Beddy saying what Eratosthenes said? Has anyone ever seen anything Eratosthenes wrote?" Well, yeah, we've got Cleomedes who actually wrote down what Eratosthenes says. We've got the Greek texts. They might have been forged.
I think it's great, this, Beddy. Nobody else has ever done this before.
You always,
Obviously.
if you're a historian or scholar, you go back to your sources, as they say. You don't rely on secondary sources, as they're called. You go to primary sources.
Well, it's good to have you around here.
Well, I hope so. Right, so let me move on. I'm going to read out as far as I can exactly what Eratosthenes argued, or rather what the text says. Might not have been written by him, but all we know about him is really from this text. Right, someone who has mastered the assumptions, that's the 6 assumptions, would have no difficulty in learning Eratosthenes' procedure. So Cleomedes is writing here about what Eratosthenes said. So he says that since Syene and Alexandria are located below the same meridian, the same circle in the sky, which marks out where the sun appears at each location at noontide, since the meridians are included among the great circles in the cosmos, circles of the Earth located below them are necessarily also great circles. What they meant by great circle, and here they're obviously assuming that both the cosmos and the Earth are spherical. The great circle is in Greek it's the largest circle.
Are you
and
sure?
in Latin.
It's talking about the circle in the sky.
Yes.
Where does that say?
He says, I'll read it again. Since the meridians are included among the great circles in the cosmos, which is the universe, so there's a circle in the universe, the circles of the Earth located below them are necessarily also great circles.
great circles, but as in the circles that the light in the sky is going on.
Yeah, there's a circle in the sky and there's a corresponding circle on the earth, says Eratosthenes.
A circle.
A circle, yeah,
Mm.
correct. The circle of the earth.
So a
Of
circle's
this-
a 2D shape, right?
Yeah, but let's not go. Please, let's not go. I will actually leave if we have this stupid discussion about 2D and 3D. You don't need any of this to understand what Eratosthenes is
A
going
circle.
on about.
Yeah, we understand.
You
So
understand? Fine.
this would be the geographical position moving in a circle according to the star moving on the sky, as I understand that.
Something like that, yeah. But he also says there is a corresponding circle, a great circle of the earth, which is, of course, a line of longitude. It's whatever longitude that Sina and Alexandria have, which goes right around the earth.
It's a straight line then.
It's a circle. It says it's a circle. So you're saying a circle is a straight line? Oh,
No, I'm asking you.
no, it's a circle.
It's a circle.
Well, I just read out what he said. I'm not presenting anything original here.
Okay.
As I said, that's what he said. He says the circles of the earth, located below the great circle in the sky, is also necessarily a great circle.
Yeah, circles.
Circles. Shall I go on? Eratosthenes says, again, this is the ancient Greek Cleomedes, who wrote down the whole thing. Eratosthenes says that Syene is located, this is assumption 6, Syene is located below the summer tropical circle. So when the sun, as it enters Cancer and produces the summer solstice, is precisely at this meridian. And then the pointers on the sundials are necessarily shadowless. That's at Syene. He's saying we have a sundial, we have a vertical pointer, and at the instant of the solstice, as the sun crosses Cancer, the pointers will be shadowless. They'll have no shadow. And he says the sun is located vertically above them. Shall I go on?
No, if there's no shadow, that makes sense.
There's no shadow.
Mm-hmm.
But in Alexandria, at the same hour, at the very same time, pointers on sundials do cast a shadow. Now let's refer to. We got the diagram.
But you've got this the light on the circle of the sky, and it's got it vertically above the other one. So parallel wouldn't work, would it? Definitely.
So let's go to the diagram. Let's see what he's saying. He's saying, let's look at the bottom red blue line. The blue line is of the pointer, the vertical pointer on the sundial, out of scale. The red line is a particular ray of light coming in from the sun. And he's saying that ray will not cast a shadow on that pointer. But if you look at the red line above, which is parallel to the red line below, because of assumption, whatever it was, assumption 3, wasn't it? On the assumption that two different rays of light from the sun arriving at different places,
how would they
isn't
come
there
to that?
parallel? Sorry?
How would they, if they have the light in the sky moving on a circle, and it moves around the circle?
Bev, when you say the light in the sky, is that what you mean by the sun?
Well, that's what
Why
this.
don't you call it the sun?
Because
I never understood this.
In
light
this, it's just a light in the sky, right? The light in the sky moves around a circle, and at one point it is vertically above somewhere else, the vertical pointer. So the light from that sun, if it was going somewhere else, could not be parallel with the light that's going vertically to that spot.
Well,
right?
Bev, I'm sure you're right, but I'm not
I'm
presenting.
I'm not questioning you, Beddy. I'm just questioning. Do you not think Eratosthenes and all of those people would have actually thought that? Or do you think they'd have said, well, let's make an assumption that it's all parallel? When it's
They were making an
obviously not, it
assumption.
can't be.
Right, so that's fine. But that was their assumption. Their assumption was the two rays of light, the red line, the two red lines. They assumed those rays would be parallel.
I can't see how they came to that assumption. But I mean, if you want to carry on,
Yeah, I knew you'd be troubled by that.
it just doesn't logically fit.
Well, let's not go there. But that's a key assumption. That the whole you're right to spot this. The whole proof stands or falls on the assumption that rays of light from the sun arriving at different places will be parallel to one another.
Not just that.
I would disagree.
Yeah, it's on triangles. This.
Why do you just?
Because this you would have the same outcome if the sun would be much closer and rays would be not parallel. But of course this you are not on a ball then, but you are measuring in straight line. So this.
Well, that's right. If the sun is very close, and the Earth is flat, you would get the same results as we've reported here. That's quite right. But that's not Eratosthenes' assumption. He assumes those two red lines will be absolutely parallel.
Okay.
Just an assumption.
I'm just saying that if you exchange this assumption into close sun and not parallel rays, you will have the same outcome. That's.
I understand that. I understood it the first time you said it. Yeah. If the sun were closer and the rays were not parallel, you could get the same result, of course. I go on. And then what he argues is, well, there will be this angle because a shadow has been cast by these assumedly parallel rays of light. There is no angle at Syene, but there is an angle. Because there's a shadow at Alexandria.
Did you say assumedly parallel rays of light?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yes. Why not?
Okay, no, as long as we make that clear that you're assuming that the light rays are parallel.
Well, that's the whole point.
It was an assumption, Essie. It wrote it at the beginning.
Right. Okay, I just want to drive home the point. Okay.
It was set down as assumption. We're doing logic now. We're just saying, well, we don't mind whether the assumptions are true or false. We want to see if the conclusion follows from those assumptions.
Yeah, but it doesn't follow that they would have said they should assume parallel, because obviously not. If they've got a circle in the sky, there is no way that they would ever have assumed parallel light.
Yeah, but he did. If that text is correct, then that's precisely what they assumed.
But maybe he just assumed, like for fun, like wishful thinking. Many logicians were doing exercises assuming some not existent things.
Sure, but sorry, we're getting sidetracked a bit here, Paper.
Okay. Sorry.
That is this.
I think we made a point.
That's just an assumption he made. I mean, he's not the only ancient Greek to do so. All the astronomers made the same assumption, but that's a separate question. The question is, did all the other astronomers agree with that assumption? Not just Eratosthenes, first question. Two, why did they make that assumption? These are two separate questions I can't answer here. I'm just going to follow through the argument. Right, next bit. If we next conceive, says Eratosthenes, we next conceive of straight lines produced through the Earth from each of the pointers, they all coincide at the center of the Earth. here he's kind of begging the question, because there are two assumptions here. First, that they'll coincide. Second assumption, actually, they'll coincide at the center of the Earth. The Earth may have no center. I think he's right. If going back to the diagram, if the ray of light hitting the sundial pointer at Alexandria hits the pointer at an angle, and if the two red lines are parallel, then the bottom red line must cross at some point the transverse. Does that make sense? They must cross.
No. What must cross?
Transverse. So the transverse is the line we've drawn from the center of the Earth up to the sundial pointer at Alexandria.
How would they draw a line from the center of the Earth?
Well, they didn't actually draw a line. It's a geometrical demonstration.
They're also assuming a shape. Let's make that clear
Okay.
as well.
Yeah. So he's already drawn a circle to start off with.
He's drawn a circle.
Yeah.
Yep.
I've drawn a circle.
You've drawn a circle.
I've drawn a circle, but I'm reflecting Eratosthenes' language. He said, these lines I drawn from the sundial pointers will coincide at the center of the Earth. And the reason he assumes that is because he assumes the Earth has a center, correct?
Okay,
That's his assumption.
Eratosthenes. Yeah. Assumed.
Assumption on assumption.
And this is the words of, you said this is somebody else writing.
Yes.
Was he his
Cleomenes.
friend, or is that like
No.
a few years later?
Eratosthenes, I think, was 3rd century BC. Cleomenes was also Greek, but he was writing the 2nd century AD.
Wow, like 500 years.
Yeah, there's about 400 years separating the two.
How would he have known, do you reckon?
He would have had Eratosthenes' book, which is now lost. But he would have been working from Eratosthenes' actual words. And other writers like Strabo refer to the same book, so we know the book existed. It's just that book itself is lost.
Right, like a dodo. Only
Not getting that,
stories told of it.
Not going there.
Aristarchus.
Okay, shall I move on? And he says, if we also conceive of a straight line going from the sun to the tip of that sundial's pointer, okay, what he's talking about is the bottom red line. So he's saying the line we've drawn from the sun to the sundial pointer at Syene, at which no shadows cast. He say those two lines, those two straight lines, must form a single straight line because it's shadowless. The bottom red and the blue line, they don't hit each other at an angle because there's no shadow. Shall I go on, or any questions?
Well, you're just going with there is somebody in the chat that said his knowledge there is no writings. It's just your word of somebody else's word.
Mike Dorner says, where is this going? What does it prove? Well, I'm going to say what it proves.
Brilliant. Brilliant.
We're
going to end up with a
yeah.
proof.
If I can finish, it's 55 minutes in, and I'm sort of we're kind of nearly there. Right. If we then suppose another straight line, he says, I'll just come to this point. Yeah. How do we know anyone actually said that? Well, we just have a text. That's all we have. All we know of history. Absolutely everything we know about history, we get from stuff that was written down in books, manuscripts. That's it. Yeah. Maybe someone made all this up.
Absolutely.
We can't rule that out, but
Well said. Well said.
I'm assuming it's true, or roughly true. Right. If we suppose another straight line drawn up from the bowl, i.e. the sundial at Alexandria, that is from the tip of the pointer's shadow up to the sun, this line and the first one, by the first one he means the bottom red line, so he's saying the top red line will be parallel to the bottom red line, because he's assumed that. That's assumption 3, I think.
That's one of the ridiculous assumptions.
That's that you're saying the parallel assumption is the ridiculous one, right?
Yeah, if you have the circle of the sun, the light in the sky, then yeah, they couldn't be parallel, could they?
Let's not go there.
Well, I mean, I don't say let's not go there. Definitely, like you said to SE at the beginning, if the light is the source, then the light doesn't come parallel. If it's revolving around a circle in the sky, then the light wouldn't come parallel, would it?
Bev, there was confusion there. I meant that the sun is not a point source of light. It's like half a degree. But that's all I meant.
It's half a degree.
Yeah, something like that. If you put your thumb up, you can just cover the sun. But look, you're distracting me.
Measuring the sun by half a degree. That's a bit strange. No, I'm just saying that if the sun is over there, then the light's going down, and then you're away over there. Why would you assume that the light is parallel?
Well, that's what they did.
I can't understand why somebody would make that assumption.
Well, let's reserve that. If I come back one day, I'll explain why the Greeks thought that.
Basically, they have to for the model to work.
But like, let's just say, for instance, because I know what you're talking about, a triangle, right? So the light is above somewhere, so you've got a like a straight down vertical, and then you've got a 500-mile leg, so you've got a vertical and a 500-mile horizontal with a right angle, and then the light that comes from the sun to the other end of that thing. I mean, you can't possibly think that those two arms of a triangle
I'm hearing you.
are parallel.
I'm totally hearing your argument. I'm totally. Brian's logic has a similar argument. Yeah, I hear what you're saying. If the sun is overhead at Syene, then you walk 500 miles. Surely, you're saying, surely you now look up at the sun. It can't be parallel.
Yes, that would be like, that would be a ridiculous assumption for. I wouldn't make that assumption.
No, but
in what I was doing.
Eratosthenes does. I said here I was going to present his argument, which is based on his assumptions. Anyway, I'm going to finish off now. So what? Mike Dornan asked, "What am I trying to prove here?" Well, given those assumptions, in particular, given the parallel, the Euclid 129, it follows that the angles are equal, by the angle at from the two lines at the center of the Earth, theta, and the angle at the sunbelt are equal, because the alternate angles are equal if those sun rays are parallel. The angle theta must be the angle theta at the sundial. You then measure the arc subtended by theta and the sundial, and they worked out that angle was 1/50th of a circle. And given the assumption that the arcs are similar, and paper agreed with this, you didn't. So we got two arcs there. We got the arc on the sundial where the shadow is mentioned. And we got the other arc is the 5,000 stadia. Those arcs must be similar. The one at the sundial is 1/50th of 360, which is 7.2 degrees. If you then multiply 50 times the 5,000 stadia, you get 250,000 stadia, which is about 25,000 miles. So Mike Dornan asked, what am I getting at here? Well, first of all, I'm just showing what Eratosthenes was trying to prove based on the assumptions. He proved, if those assumptions are true, that the circumference of the Earth is about 25,000 miles. That's it. But if that conclusion is false, then it follows that any one or more of those assumptions must be false by modus tollens.
No,
Let's
no,
say
no.
you walked into a court of law
It doesn't
and you
mean
made that
all-
argument based
doesn't
on 3 assumptions in the beginning, right off the bat. How well do you think you would do? Let's say you were the prosecutor bringing that case up. How do you think the judge would rule?
I have no idea. I tried to present it as clearly as I could. Have I presented the logic? That's my question. Is it clear what Eratosthenes was trying to argue?
Yeah, that was pretty bad logic as far as I can see.
Yeah, I would say it's unlogical, Beddy. No disrespect to you, no, but I would say that was unlogical.
He's
Okay.
got a distance of 500 stadia. You've drawn it in your drawing. It's a curved line.
Yeah.
Do you think Eratosthenes would have had that as a curved line?
Yeah. He certainly would, because I've given all his assumptions. But his logic, you're confusing validity with soundness. Given his assumptions,
His
conclusion
are
clearly-
ridiculous. You can't make a triangle out of it.
right, Bev, can I just let me finish? Given his assumptions, his argument, his conclusion of 25,000 circumference of the Earth follows. So the argument is valid. The question is, are the assumptions true or not? Is the argument sound?
No, his assumptions are ridiculous.
Yeah, Beddy, it falls
I
apart
can't
right
believe
at
he
the
did that. I can't believe it. It just doesn't make any sense. Why people in the age of enlightenment,
Right.
of the discovery of all of these things, would start with measurements of curved lines. And then, obviously, if they're trying to build a triangle of a circle in the sky, with the light in it, then why would he assume parallel lines? There's no triangle can be formed.
Yeah, you're questioning. It was not my purpose in this presentation to question any of the assumptions. I thought I'd made that clear.
You asked me about
if you
the logic.
accept the
I said it was bad.
assumptions. No, I was just going to say, if he accepts the assumptions, then you accepted the assumptions. But if you're asking if that's a logical statement or logical conclusion, I would have to say no to either one of those, because you're starting off with a faulty premise. So that takes out logic, in my opinion.
No, it doesn't kick out validity. Let me give you an argument. If it is night, then it is day. Assumption 1.
What?
Assumption.
What?
That's a contradiction, Beddy.
Doesn't
Yeah,
matter.
I think there's
Don't
more.
put a
Let him finish.
contradiction in.
Yeah, let me finish. If it is night, then it is day. Assumption 1. Assumption 2, it is night. Conclusion, it is day.
Come on, Beddy. You gotta be kidding me, bro.
That was a very famous argument of the Stoics, and they said, well, look,
Oh, give over.
it is
Give him
it
a
is a
slap.
valid argument. The P implies Q, and P then Q. Modus ponens.
Isn't that a contradiction, though, Beddy?
Yeah, but the point is you can get a valid argument
Isn't
with
the purpose of
contradictory-
logic to root
assumptions.
out fallacies, not
It's the
build them
purpose
into
of logic.
it.
It's the purpose of logic to distinguish valid from invalid arguments.
Mm-hmm.
That is a
Mind your
valid
P's and
argument.
Q's would be a good one to start
Yes,
with. That one.
correct. Yeah.
Right,
If
so
you agree
don't
with
build
modus,
a contradiction into your premise.
if you agree with modus ponens as being a valid argument form, then you agree that that argument is valid. It's not sound because the first premise is false.
No, sound, sound, being sound or not sound, it's not strict and logical expression. It means it is meaningless. Valid, it has to be true, not only correct in form. That you can form any statement. For example, if the
Right.
grass is green, therefore I will live 100 years. So it doesn't mean that I did correct statement because I form it into correct conditional. But
Yeah, like I can say,
Can
Betty, I
I,
can
no,
say,
can I just reply? Can I just address Paper's point?
sorry, yeah, go ahead.
I'm just taking textbook definitions of validity. Which textbook paper, which logic textbook were you using in order to make that claim? Can you justify it? The sources.
so, but to prove something, because validation is a strong thing in proving. So I don't understand your position, because it seems to me that a validation of something can be proofless.
Can you just confirm? Are you taking this out of a textbook, a source, or is this just an idea of yours? I just want to be clear on that.
No, I am thinking. I'm just thinking.
Right. So you've not read the textbook definition of valid and invalid. Is that fair to say?
I know what means, what word valid means.
What does the word valid mean in formal logic? What does the word valid mean?
Beddy, can you give us your textbook and the textbook definition, please? Please state the textbook that you are reading your definition of valid out of, please.
I've got a number of textbooks on in my library here. I'm looking for.
After you're done, I'd like to give you a summary of what I think your argument went down like.
Can I come back to you on that? But the standard definition of a valid argument is one where
The textbook.
Textbook argument.
No, the textbook definition was what we're talking about.
I mean, if you let me finish.
Well, this is Beddy. Beddy, this is Trivium night. We need to be very exact with our terms. The grammar. We need to be sure of what we're talking about. And you're talking about a definition of a word, which is the trivium grammar.
Yeah. Can I give you that definition, or are you going to interrupt me?
Off you go.
Yeah, a valid argument is one where it is impossible for the premises to be true and the conclusion false. That's what a valid argument is.
Mm-hmm. So you can't build a contradiction into it. Would not be valid.
I'm just saying, you asked for the definition of a valid argument and I gave it.
No, valid was what you said. Just valid.
I gave you the definition of a valid argument.
Ah, see, a valid argument. Okay.
Yeah, I said that.
So if a valid argument is one that cannot have a contradiction within it.
No, I didn't say that.
Well, you did. You said it cannot be. Go on, say it again. Read out the definition.
A valid argument is one where it is impossible that the premises are true and the conclusion false. You got that?
Mm-hmm. Give us an example.
Well, the one I just gave you. If it is night, then it is day. 1, 2, it is day. Conclusion, therefore it is night. It is impossible for the premises to be true and the conclusion false of that argument.
So you cannot validate or invalidate. So it is argument that cannot prove anything.
Paper, you are using a different different definition, which I think is your own definition of.
Are you trying to say that is a valid argument? If it is day, it is night. Are you trying to say that's part of a valid argument, Beddy?
No, I said here is the argument, which has two premises and one conclusion. Listen carefully. The first premise is if it is day, then it is night. Yeah, that's the first premise. The second premise is it is day. The conclusion is it is night.
Yeah, and I'm asking you, do you say that is valid?
Yes, it's a valid argument because it is impossible for the premises to be true and the conclusion false.
But what about if the premise is not true? Because you've built in a fallacy into it.
False,
It's not necessarily false. You've built a contradiction into your premise.
Yes.
Right, so it could neither be true nor false, or it could be both true and false. You have built a contradiction into your statement. Yes, it's the laws of laws of identity, the law of non-contradiction, and the law of excluded middle. You've broken the law of non-contradiction within your premise.
Yes, so the premise is false.
So it cannot be valid.
Contradictory. It is invalid premise, so to speak.
No, arguments are valid or invalid. Premises are true or false. This is basic. This is really basic stuff.
Okay, so your argument was based on assumptions, remember?
Which argument are we talking about? The day-night
The one that you made before.
Eratosthenes.
The Eratosthenes one. That's one I missed. What was the conclusion?
The conclusion was that the circumference of the Earth, given those assumptions, is 250,000 stadia.
Okay, not that verticals aren't parallel.
That is a corollary.
That's sort of one of the assumptions at the beginning.
That's a corollary. No, he never says that, but it's a corollary. If you look at the diagram, the two pointers, the two sundial pointers, these are verticals by definition because...
So it's not really a proof. I'm just after the proof. You say it's a proof of something, and to my knowledge, this could possibly be the first proof for the globe model. You, Beddy, might have actually turned up with the first ever geometric proof for the globe model.
Ever.
Mm-hmm. It is built on a load of assumptions and like false assumptions, but you've brought it. You've brought it to us.
It is valid. It is valid in the sense that if those assumptions are true, and note the word if, right? If those assumptions are true, then the conclusion, which is that the Earth has a circumference of 250,000 stadia, is also true.
Yeah, you know what that sounds like to me, Beddy? Let me give you just a small little thing. It's like you're saying, starting off on assumptions, right? It's like you're saying this. If female unicorn mates with male unicorn, voila, baby unicorn, cute little baby unicorn.
That's not a valid argument.
You don't think?
I
started off with two assumptions, and then I made a conclusion that makes logical sense.
Yeah,
if the two assumptions made,
it's not a valid
argument. You should have put a contradiction in one of the premises. And
it's not a valid argument. You need to add a premise that when any animals of any kind mate together, then they have children, right?
Okay, you can add some sauce on it if you want, like, you know, some dressing, but
yeah, no, it's not dressing. This is really important. You have to get an argument where it is impossible for the premises to be true and the conclusion false. That is all logic is.
Yeah, but you're talking about your second statement. I'm talking about your first argument that you made.
Sorry, which argument?
The one that you came up with 25,000 miles. You made. You started off on 3 faulty assumptions. And then you thought the fourth one was an assumption, and Bev told you, no, it's actually true. And then you made a 5th assumption.
I didn't make these assumptions. Eratosthenes does. I'm simply repeating what his text.
Yeah,
or
but you
recorded
took on
text.
the argument. So that argument became yours, right?
You
Sorry,
presented it.
so-
Yeah. I can't argue with Eratosthenes, can I?
No. You can say, well, I think the point is the argument valid? Does the conclusion follow from the premises in the sense that I said for valid? Is it valid? And the second question, well, it clearly is. The second question is it sound? Are any of the premises false? And you've already
Yeah,
said
all
Do we
of
have
them.
to accept? Do we have to accept your premise?
Sorry, who's speaking?
Does it matter who's speaking? I'm asking you a question.
I didn't hear the question.
Do we have to accept your premise?
No, not at all.
Okay,
I just
then
said
can
that.
you validate your premise without going back to the circular logic?
My question is the argument valid? Yes. Are the assumptions true? Well, we need further arguments to establish which of these. I think we all agree that Euclid proposition 129 is true.
That's within Euclid, yeah. Straight lines.
Yeah.
Do you know much about this model that you? Because this, I'm taking it. This is globe logic.
No, it's not globe. It's logic. It's logic.
It's logic based around the globe model. That's
No,
why
it's
it
just
doesn't
logic.
seem to make any
It
sense.
is just logic. Look at the words.
Okay.
See what they imply. See what that conclusion is. That's all it is.
Okay. Have you ever heard of the stolen concept fallacy?
Yeah. This is just. Let's not go there.
What do you mean? Let's not go where?
Let's not go there. I don't want to go there because it's not part of sort of proper sort of logical philosophy. It's not.
It is really, because if you're trying to use Euclidean geometry to prove parallel lines, well, to assume parallel lines, to prove a globe, but the globe actually works on non-Euclidean geometry. You can't really use Euclidean to prove that non-Euclidean geometry is the geometry you should be using.
Yeah, right. So then one of the premises must be false. And I think we've all agreed that the one you want to question is number 4, which is that number 3.
Every one of them.
Every one of them.
Yeah.
But the distance between the two cities is 5,000 stadies.
Yeah, you've got it curved. It's like the distances. Whenever anybody measures a distance, they measure a straight line distance.
Right. So so your argument. So against 2, you're saying you cannot measure the distance between two cities if they're on a curve. Right?
No, Beddy. This is what I say. It's not an argument. This is a statement. When people measure distances, they measure straight line distances.
Right.
Yes.
But if you're saying, I understand. That's what I said. Mm-hmm. But if Sion and Alexandria, if the surface between them is curved, you're saying, well, you cannot measure the distance. That's your point? Yes.
I didn't make that point. Is that your point?
Nobody's
you want to
saying
make?
No, I thought it was your point.
No, I said
What?
when people measure distances, especially back in Eratosthenes' day, because Euclid had just wrote his elements, right? So I'm sure if Eratosthenes ever existed, he would have been around Euclid. He would have known of Euclid because they lived in the same place, didn't they?
Go on.
And
no, they didn't.
Well, it's reported that Euclid could have lived in Alexandria, right? And Eratosthenes reportedly burnt down the library, didn't he?
What's this got to do with anything?
Well, because they could have been in the same place. I'm just saying, if the elements had just been wrote for geometry, then I'm sure that Eratosthenes, if he was doing any sort of angle measurement, he would have had straight lines.
Right.
Yeah. I just think that's what I would have assumed anyway.
What do other people... Can we measure the distance between two cities if the Earth is a globe?
Well, if we were to measure the distance between two cities, would we depict it as a straight line?
well, the distance is a metric. It's a number of miles. So 5,000 is not a straight line, is it?
5,000
Saying
miles.
5,000
Yeah.
is a straight. Sorry,
5,000 miles. Yes.
5,000 miles is a straight line.
It would be a straight line, wouldn't it?
Well, isn't it? It's a measurement, I thought. Maybe I'm
Yeah.
wrong.
And wouldn't measurements be straight lines?
No, measurements are measurements.
Mm-hmm.
Measurements are things we are doing. So
Right.
we are doing measurement point to point with a straight line only.
Right. So when you go to the tailor's and he puts the tape measure around your waist, he's not measuring your waist, correct?
Measuring a straight line, isn't he? The distance that he
See?
has on his tape measure.
Linear.
Because if you work out he starts at one place and ends at the same place,
Right.
is it not a straight line?
Yeah, it must be a
Distance?
straight. So my waist is straight, not curved.
The measurement of the thing is a straight line, isn't it? The measurement,
Okay.
Beddy.
Yep.
If you measure 43 inches, I don't know what you could be. 54 inches, Beddy. I don't know. That
Okay.
would be a straight line.
Did you? And so you don't like the parallel bit, number 3. You don't like the distance bit because you say we can't
What do
measure
you mean
the
you don't
distance
like
between-
it, Beddy? It's not a matter of like or dislike. You're asking
you
us
think
about the logic of it. Yes, the assumptions
You think
that you
it's
make.
false? Well, the logic is perfect. It's just, are the assumptions true or false?
What logic? Where was the logic? If the lines are parallel, was it?
Yeah, if the lines are parallel.
Go on. Finish your logical
If-
statement for us.
If the lines are parallel, and if Euclid proposition 129 is true, and if the angle at the sundial is theta, then the angle at the point where the other point, the alternate angle, must also be theta. Is that not logic?
Well, it seems a bit messed up that I can't see
Is it? Okay.
Eratosthenes.
But-
Is that Eratosthenes' argument?
Well, I just want
Eratosthenes'
to,
logical argument.
No
Just-
way.
As I said before, if you just change these parallel lines with not parallel lines, the outcome would be the same. It means that if all other premises are true, not in logic sense, but in word, you will have the same outcome. It means that you couldn't measure a circumference of the sphere because it would mean that the measurement was on a plane, and this circumference, this 25,000 miles, would be just equator, just path of the sun on the equator, but not circumference of the globe.
yeah, I understand that. You said that before, Paper, and that's what you said is correct. That means the assumption 3 is false, right?
Yes, visibly.
Yes.
But my point is that you can keep other premises. Just
Yeah, sure.
changing only this one changes everything.
Changes the whole thing. And I said that to Bev right at the beginning. Look, this is the key assumption. This is the one that drives everything.
There's a few.
If that assumption is false, if the sun is very close to us and the rays are not parallel, or they're not very close to parallel, the argument collapses.
Yeah, that was my point to begin with.
Yeah, so we all agree. We're all totally agreeing. Flower Power says this glober is getting destroyed. Keep it. I'm not a glober. I'm just reading out an argument that Eratosthenes. I mean, God.
I must say, you're being honest at their assumptions, so I'll give you respect for that.
I'm a very honest person. I don't like it when people say I'm a lying toe rag or whatever they say.
No, you're just championing the model. I understand that.
Mhm.
Am I championing the model? I'm just saying, I'm just giving an argument that Eratosthenes gave
So what
as,
is
as
the
close
argument
to the
then?
original text as
Go
I
on,
can.
can you make the argument for us, since it is trivium?
But I just did. The whole point, I've been talking for
No,
1
yeah,
hour,
but I
25
mean,
minutes.
succinctly, just do the argument, state the argument.
Hang on, look, I'm looking in the chat. Crap argument, Ebby. It's not my bloody argument.
Well, let's make it.
Superfluous says crap argument. Who are these people? They not
Very
understand. I was
practices.
reading out the text.
They're just
I was
people in the chat.
explaining.
Buddy, don't worry
Sorry?
about it. They're just people in the
Oh, I
chat.
do worry about it.
Well, this is the first
Okay,
thing
Beddy.
you should learn is just don't look at the chat.
It gets me triggered when people say stupid
Don't look
things
at the
like
We
chat.
know it's not your argument. I understand. I believe
Well,
you.
these people
Let me
don't.
ask you a question
These-
as a
these people are
logician, if I
stupid.
may. Betty, can I ask
Sure.
you? Okay.
Yeah.
You're a logician, right? To you, does the argument that I'm not saying it's your argument, the argument that you claim Eratosthenes made,
Yeah.
like starting off an argument with almost if parallel line, and if the sun rays are parallel. Number one, number two, and number three premise. Does that, as a logician, is that a logical way to start an argument for you, or a premise, or whatever you want to call it?
You can start with in logic. You can start with any premise you like. Where logicians are worried about the validity of the argument. Does the conclusion, which is here, is that the circumference is 25,000 miles? Does the conclusion follow from those 6 assumptions? My view is yeah.
Right, but they are assumptions,
follows.
though. Now, if you
Right?
ask, they are assumptions, though. It's based on
Yeah,
assumptions.
of course, they're assumptions. I started out this talk an hour and a half ago saying, look, guys, here are 6 assumptions. They may not be true, but let's see what happens if they are true.
Okay, then it's like saying, okay, I'm going to tell you a story, and that's about it. There's no, you can't make that as a proof or as or
It is a
anything.
proof.
You can't. Can
It
you?
is all proofs are based on assumptions.
Checked assumptions. If they are not checked, they cannot be proof.
Yeah, you have to check. I mean,
only in speculation. It means that, and in speculation even, you have to assume that if you cannot check it, you have to assume that this is true.
Yeah, we're in this, Beddy. I think everybody's with us in the chat and everything. The conclusion, 'tis globe. But what is the argument to get you there?
I'll have to go through the whole thing again.
Is it just that parallel, that lights?
It's just the parallel. It's
just
pretty
based
much
around that one thing, that all of the light from the sun has to be coming in parallel.
Yes, if it's coming in parallel, and if there's no shadow at Syene, let me finish. If the light rays, if the 2 red lines are parallel, and if there is shadow at Alexandria but no shadow at Syene, then the alternate angle, then there must be an angle at the sundial, and that angle, given the parallels, given the 2 red lines are parallel, that angle.
Internalize the angle.
Yeah, the alternate angles are going to be equal, from which we can immediately assume geometrically, and this is not logic, this is geometry, because of the similarity of the 2 arcs.
The parallel lines and the equal opposite angles, right? The equal vertical angles.
But in fact, you are making 2 assumptions. First, about parallel rays, and second, about the sphere.
Yeah, you are positioning that angle at the center.
You are yes. These rays are falling on, not on a plane, but are falling on the sphere. Or
I would disagree with that. As long as those lines, as long as the red lines are parallel, and as long as the one at Alexandria strikes the pointer at an angle, it then geometrically follows that the pointer from Alexandria must cross the pointer line in Syene at some point. That geometrically follows.
No. It is
No?
based on the second assumption, which is not said, but it is, and it has to be, because this vertical in cyan is not parallel to this other one. So it has, so the globe is assumed already because these verticals are not parallel.
No, that's a corollary. That follows. All you have to assume is that the two red lines are parallel, and that the top red line strikes the pointer at an angle, right? Just given those two assumptions, it immediately follows that the pointer at Alexandria the line projected from that must cross the sundial pointer at Syene. It then immediately follows from that the blue lines, the pointers, are not parallel to each other.
I am saying
that's very simple.
It's saying,
very simple.
Okay. I am saying that you cannot make just one assumption about parallel lines because it wouldn't work. So you have to have second silent assumption that there is a globe.
So if I assume that there is an angle, let's just take the two blue lines. Now, are they parallel or not? It follows immediately from just looking at it that if the two red lines are parallel, and if one of the red lines strikes one of the blue lines at an angle, the other red line doesn't, it immediately follows that the two lines must coincide. Pointers, it immediately follows the pointers cannot be parallel. Period.
I understand, but it will work only with other assumption that these verticals are not parallel.
No, that's not an assumption.
Because you wouldn't have the difference between no angle in Syene and angle in Alexandria, or vice versa. I cannot.
No,
see
it does.
that.
It follows
it is,
from.
Beddy. If light rays are parallel, then the verticals cannot be parallel. It's as simple as that. All of the fancy magic trick with the angle, putting it in the center, and then saying other things, they're irrelevant.
Bev, you're
Paper's
absolutely right.
I know. Paper did that.
No. Paper seemed to think there's an extra assumption involved. There isn't any extra assumption.
Yeah, I said silent assumption. It has to be.
It's not an assumption. It's a corollary. You know what a corollary is?
It's pre-assumption.
No, it's not an assumption. The only assumption you need is that the two red lines are parallel. If the first blue line is part of the first parallel line, and the second strikes the other at an angle, it cannot be that the blue lines are parallel. No, so it's not an assumption they're parallel. It's a corollary. It follows.
No, I disagree. This is you have to have two antecedents. Coincidental to each other. First, parallel rise. Second, non-vertical verticals. You have to have two, brilliant. Both.
Yeah, Beddy. I mean, I think you've missed the trick here. I don't think you've seen it. There's an obvious trick, like a magic trick that's been performed. You've just internalized an angle, but that angle is the equipotential angle of adjustment. A mind adjustment. You've unparallelized verticals with parallel light. This is the big stolen concept, the big paralogism, Beddy. In order to make verticals not parallel, what you've had to do is use parallel light to make verticals not parallel. I agree there.
If we want to prove that the verticals are not parallel, we have to assume parallel light rays.
Yes.
From the assumption of parallel light rays, it follows from, there's no silent assumption, it follows from the assumption of parallel light rays that the verticals are not parallel. Correct.
Yes, but this is circular reasoning.
Well, it's even worse than that, Beddy. You should know.
No,
because
it's
the
not circular either.
geometry of that you need for spherical geometry assumes no parallel
So you
lines,
seem to be.
doesn't it?
Are you
It
disagreeing with
has
proposition?
within its axioms no parallel lines. That's how you have to end up with no parallel horizontals, no parallel verticals. But you've used in your proof to get to those
Not
no
my proof. It's
parallels.
not my proof. Whose proof is it, Bev?
This
Whose
was
proof
the
is
one
it?
that you've brought to us. You haven't seen this, obviously, because this is the stolen concept. You've used parallel lines to
I
prove
haven't.
there are no
Sorry.
parallel lines.
Are you
it's
talking
amazing.
about Eratosthenes' proof? Are you talking about
I'm
Euclid? I
talking
haven't given
about
a
the
proof.
proof that you've brought us today.
Yes, which is not my proof.
You claimed it as a proof, Beddy. You brought it here as
It is-
a proof.
It is a proof,
Mm-hmm.
but
Like
it
you
is
just said,
a proof.
I'd say it isn't a proof. It's definitely, it's got a fallacy
Okay.
built into it.
If you say so.
Mm-hmm. It's a stolen concept. We've been telling Wally, we've been telling all the guys on Twitter, told Chaiki. Nobody seems
Right.
to understand what it is. Self-refuting claim. You're using parallels to prove that verticals aren't parallel. And hence
That is
horizontals aren't parallel.
correct.
And that is circular reasoning. That's why it is.
Don't see why it's circular reasoning.
In here, in this diagram, it is circular reasoning because you have not parallel verticals only with assumption that there are parallel lights, but you measure, or supposedly it was measured that they are parallel. This light
Oh no,
is
no, I see
parallel
what you
because
mean.
you have already non-vertical verticals.
I think I see what you mean. You think they're proving that the red lines are parallel because the verticals are not parallel. Is that what you mean?
It means that because it has to be somehow related to what they have done. So some observations. So if the observation is that there is an angle in one city and no angle in other city, and with assumptions of parallel light, we have divergent verticals.
Divergent verticals, which follow from the assumption of parallel light, but nowhere have we proved that the light rays are parallel. We've only assumed it.
No, it doesn't. In fact, it doesn't follow. It is non sequitur because
What doesn't follow? What doesn't follow?
it doesn't follow that verticals are divergent because light is parallel. This is non
It
sequitur.
doesn't follow.
Yes, it is not the cause. This is not the cause of being divergent, that the rays are parallel.
I'm not talking about causes. We're just talking about assumptions and observations. If we assume that the light, well, we've been here before, haven't we? We're not making any headway. Can I bow out now? Are there any other questions on?
Okay, I am done with questions. All right, I know what I know. Thank you very much.
No problem. Thank you.
And this
This
is
was
as,
good.
as-
This was very illuminating.
this is as
Sorry,
close
Bev.
to the original as you can find, Betty.
It's
This
as
is
close to the original I can get. I wish the people in your chat would be a little bit more
I
polite.
say don't ever look at the chat.
I don't think I can shut it down.
You know, I fight the flat
Oh,
earth
hi,
taught me
chat.
that. Don't ever look at the chat on
Yeah,
the YouTube.
it's kind of off-putting.
Mm-hmm.
It'll throw you off your game.
Distracting and making you nervous. It is just shut it down.
It doesn't make me nervous. It makes me sort of spit blood.
Just don't watch it.
Okay, I've got to go now. Thank you very much.
Nobody
for
can
your,
control the chat. Thank you very much for coming, Beddy.
Yeah, thank you. I'll sign off now. Bye-bye. Good night.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Wow.
I will be in 3 minutes.
Okie dokie. Interesting. The most exact, because even who was it that had the Carl Sagan, was it, with the bendy cardboard? Yeah. He had a well, didn't he? But so Beddy's gone against all of that, all of the known one well and a stick. He's come up with a new one, right? So it was a stick, a vertical stick, and no shadow cast. And the other one is a stick with a shadow cast. And from that, Beddy has decided, or well, Beddy's told us that Eratosthenes said that verticals weren't parallel. That's how he could draw a line to the center and get them to intersect. Direct assumption.
Yeah.
So remember that. Stolen concept. Fallacy. Self-refuting claim. You can use parallel lines to prove a geometry that states there are no parallel lines. Because another one of the corollaries, like he said, was the fact that if verticals aren't parallel, then horizontals also can't be parallel. And that means perpendiculars don't work like they would do within Euclidean geometry. So he's managed to use parallel lines for the light in the sky. Actually, Euclidean geometry is the only geometry that has parallel lines. So he's used those parallel lines and the geometry associated with those parallel lines to say that there are no verticals and horizontals perpendicular, which means perpendicularity doesn't work like Euclidean geometry states it does. I hope everybody can see the problem associated with this logically. I really do, because that's what we're doing here. This is a trivium night. And this is probably one of the best examples of this. Which is very strange that Beddy tried to use, I think it's like one of the first examples of the parallel definitions within Euclidean geometry. As soon as you hear parallel lines, then you absolutely know that we are dealing with Euclidean geometry. And therefore you can't disprove Euclidean geometry with Euclidean geometry.
How about when you hear almost parallel lines? What are you dealing with then?
Not parallel lines.
Almost parallel lines.
Yeah.
Yeah, unbelievable.
Not.
Unbelievable.
I think he did okay.
Okay. He started off his whatever that was with 3 faulty assumptions. 3 assumptions right off the bat. And somehow you're trying to make logic. Even if you take them as logical, they still don't make sense. I mean, it's unbelievable. Let me build a house where there's quicksand and then add floors to it.
I don't think Eratosthenes was a real dude. They had him burning down the Library of Alexandria, you know.
I heard you say that.
Yeah.
Did they say that he burned it down? I thought it was the Roman.
No, it was him that was in charge of it at the time.
What did he do?
As long as the story goes, right? You wouldn't want to have a real person tied to that, would you?
No chance. There's no way he burned down the library if it got burned down to begin with.
Yeah, I do like that one, Mike. If the light in the sky is Euclidean, then verticals and horizontals can't be.
Yeah, how about the other one? Night is day.
Yeah.
How about that
Bev,
one?
This is
Bev,
this
you
is,
have another guest. Sorry, but
okay.
you'll have to
Oh,
unmute.
Chaiki.
Before Chaiki,
Go
I
on.
can respond to that. If night, then day. It is fallacy of equivocation because it assumes that night is day.
To begin with.
Yes, this is pre-assumptions that night is day, and then we have tautology.
Yeah,
And
but
it's
you
okay.
can't do that because you check your P's and your Q's, right? Night cannot be day. It's a contradiction.
Yes, that's. But it follows that pre-assumption to have this valid, you have to equivocate night with day. That would work. But of course, it is not true. So in reality, it doesn't work.
Yeah, well,
So
like he said, then if night, then day, right? That should surely say, wait a minute, isn't there something wrong with this logic?
Well, I said it before he even got to that part. From the beginning. What? Day is night? Excuse me?
Yeah, it doesn't follow, right? And it doesn't assume, and it doesn't help anybody, especially in what we do here, right? This is practical use of it, not going into the draws with it. You don't want to be going into an argument about a ridiculous argument and why somebody might be able to make a ridiculous argument. You want to just be able to say, that's a contradiction. Don't put a contradiction in an argument. There's no way of coming out with a definite answer.
Yes, but
Yeah.
the answer for this paradox is because to find parallelism is to find the way that some person was mistaken. Where is mistake? Mistake is that there was, and it has to be, equivocation between day and night. So this is it. So yes, contradiction, of course, but
Yeah.
in mind of that person who thinks that it is true, he has to have this assumption, pre-assumption that day equals night.
Yeah,
Which
so
is-
it dies
which is
right
ab-
off the gate.
which is absurd,
Doesn't
of course.
even,
Yeah.
the gate doesn't even open.
Yeah, you have to point that out to everybody, right? Because there are people who come into these arenas and they listen to people talking. And they might believe that what Beddy comes up with is a valid argument because they may trust him as being a logician and being able to tell people it's not a valid argument, it's a ridiculous argument. Don't ever use anything like that to prove any point or anything. It's ridiculous. So, I mean, do you want Chaiki's view on Eratosthenes? Is everybody else okay with that? I think that may have been one of the first ever presentations of the true Eratosthenes done by Beddy. We might be honoured to have that.
I will give all to that this is true. It's still Eratosthenes didn't prove that the Earth is globe with such and such circumference. So
You
that's
can't
my
prove,
point from I think 2016.
you
because
can't
I
prove
already knew that.
verticals are not parallel by using parallel light. Because
And then
I
calling it
would
almost
say that spherical geometry was born out of the need, the necessity for verticals to not be parallel. They needed to get rid of parallel lines. So using parallel lines to get rid of parallel lines sounds a bit ridiculous.
Yes, so this is double assumption, and this is hidden assumption because it was never said in that proof, so-called proof, that verticals are not parallel. So this is this silent assumption, not spoken.
It's a sneak trick, isn't it? It's a sophist argument.
Yes,
Yep.
And he's
sophistical, yes.
trying to sneak a few things past people in the guise of another argument, something that nobody would ever have done. Ridiculous geometry.
And this is the circular reasoning, because if you have to prove that the Earth is globe, and of course it implies that verticals are not divergent, and you are using this non-parallel verticals in your proof, it means that this is circular reasoning. So you cannot prove anything with that.
Right, let's see what Chaiki's got. I bet Chaiki's known about Eratosthenes. There you go, Chaiki. Welcome back, Chaiki. I thought you left.
Yeah, make sure I'm 100%, huh?
Pardon?
Make sure I'm 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You
well,
are
Eratosthenes
100%.
Eratosthenes never tried to prove the Earth is globe. He had other proof that Earth is globe. Just measure the circumference. That's all. And do you have any proof? Do you have any proof that
Wait.
Sorry.
Yes.
You will wait until I finish. 2 words. Do you have any proof that light? Bev, I'm talking.
Whoa.
I'm
right,
talking.
Chaiki,
I didn't start talking.
Right,
you talk
Chaiki.
over me.
Chaiki, it's
relax.
Okay.
Sit back. I'll finish talking. You will talk. Do you have any proof that light rays are not parallel?
Pardon?
No, don't end with the question, please. You had a claim that Eratosthenes measured. You used that word, measured. How did he do that?
You heard the arguments. That's how it measured.
No, measured.
Measured, yes.
Not calculated, measured. How?
Yes, measured.
He went through whole Earth.
It's how you measure stuff.
No. Measurement is measured.
Yeah.
Did he do it in bits? Or did he do it all in one go?
Did you not hear about this stadia? These stadia were measured with pace. They walking people. So we can say that this distance between two cities were measured. We can say that.
Right.
Because,
the distance was measured. The angle was measured. We know how many degrees there is in a circle, and that's how you measure the circumference.
Not measure, but calculate.
Yes,
this is not measured.
You don't know how to measure stuff, so don't speak.
So he didn't measure circumference. He didn't measure. He didn't.
That light rays are not parallel.
Chaiki, you asked Paper to be quiet until you finished. So can you be quiet until he finishes his question, please?
No, he didn't ask no question.
My statement was that he didn't measure, and my statement is still.
Well, your statement is stupid. Do you have any proof that light rays are not parallel?
Do you have any proof how he measured circumference?
You were presented. I'm not going to repeat it. There's no way.
It was not presented.
But yeah, Beddy, walk you through this. If you didn't get it the first time, you will not get it the second time. Not going to do it.
Was it measured or calculated, Chaiki?
I'm not here to teach you. Well, you tell me. When your odometer, when your speedometer says 60 miles per hour, is it measured or calculated?
Actually, it's under 60 miles an hour because they give you a factor so you don't actually break the speed limit.
No, I'm asking, is it measured or calculated? Don't deflect.
It's under 60 miles an hour, so you don't go over speed limit.
When Bev
miles per hour. hour.
Yeah, is it measured or calculated?
It's got to be calculated because it's measured
right. So thank
per miles per
Right, it's
hour.
calculated. That's
Right
how
now,
we
how
measure
do you
stuff.
measure the distance?
Go. You just prove with the wheel you can measure the distance, Bev.
So
Measure.
he went. So he
Measure,
went.
yes.
So
You,
so
did you measure?
Eratosthenes.
Did you
He had a
measure or
wheel.
calculated the distance?
So,
he
so
measured
he
with a
went
wheel.
Did
through
you
whole.
measure or calculate the distance with the wheel?
Yes. So he
Not
went.
straight line, a
Eratosthenes.
wheel. Did you measure the distance or calculated it? Thank you
So
very much. Do you have any proof that light rays are not parallel?
so he measured. Eratosthenes measured Earth
take it
walking
as no.
walking with the wheel. Yes.
We don't know how they measured. They did measure, however.
I would say that he didn't, because he couldn't go through whole Earth
He didn't
around.
go through all Earth. He go through a part of Earth, and from that he calculated the whole Earth. That's how
No,
you do measurements.
he calculated only
That's how you do
with
measurements.
assumption
That
and
light rays are parallel. Yes.
not
Now,
only
do you
not
have
only
do you
with
have a
with
proof that they are
with
not?
assumption. No, he was assuming a globe.
No, he wasn't.
Yes,
Well,
this
he
is that's
didn't
why.
have to assume a globe, since all he
Yes,
had to do
because
is
without assuming a globe, you will have parallel verticals, and
have
you
a
have
broken-
this angle only.
You have a broken
Only
brain.
you can have only this divergent verticals with assuming a globe.
No, you will
Yes,
have it
because
when you assume parallel lines. You have broken.
no.
How no? How no? If the
I
line,
will
if
explain you.
assumption-
I will explain you how
Okay,
no.
you explain it. Go ahead.
Yes, because if you have two parallel verticals and parallel
You're
rays,
assuming parallel verticals right from the start. Why?
yes,
Why? Who
because
told you?
they are parallels
How
in
do you know? Did you
geometry.
measure? What proof do you have for it?
And what do you prove you have that they are not?
Well,
I'm talking about assumption. I'm talking about assumption.
You're talking about assumption.
Yes,
but our
that's
assumption was that light rays are parallel.
Yes, and the second assumption, not said in argument,
No
was
assumption
that
anymore.
the verticals are not parallel. Therefore, the globe
if
was
the light-
assumed.
Let me put you a modus tollens. If light rays are parallel and the verticals are parallel, there will be no shadow on all verticals. Is that clear enough for you?
Yes, of course.
Yes. So there is a shadow on one of the verticals. They are not parallel.
No, because
yes.
no, because I can refute the premise. If
light rays are parallel, there will be a shadow on any of the verticals, and others not.
Okay,
is
so
that
possible?
Is that possible
So
in your
now,
Euclidean geometry?
Jackie, now my modus ponens or tollens. If light rays are not parallel and verticals are parallel, there would be a shadow on one of the sticks.
Right, but that wasn't the assumption, was it?
It was my assumption.
No, we're talking about the assumption that light rays are parallel, and we don't need to assume a globe in order to establish that they are not parallel.
No. We have to, because divergent,
No, we don't. I just told you we don't.
Divergent verticals exist only on the globe.
Making sense. Your argument is false.
No, it
because
is not
if
false.
they are parallel,
Because
there will be no, if there is no shadow on one, there will be no shadow.
Necessary antecedent for divergent verticals is a globe. You cannot have.
I don't care. No, it's not a globe. It's any shape that it's not flat. It's any shape that's not flat. The assumption is they are parallel, and if you accept,
I've done a drawing for you, Jakey. I've got done a drawing for you.
Drawing? Yeah. That would be the day.
Okay.
And another thing I want from you, Bev, since this.
There you go. Have a look at that.
Yeah. since it's straight, well, that's not parallel lines, are they?
Yeah, the two verticals
no
and they're
parallel
with the
lines.
horizontal.
No,
they're
no,
both.
no.
This is just
Address
the
argument.
geometric
Address
picture.
the
That's all I'm doing,
argument.
Jakey. I've just shown you what a vertical parallel and a horizontal would be.
I get it, but
Yeah.
the argument is that light rays are parallel. Can you produce light
And that
rays
isn't a hairy bollock.
Bev, I
That's
can
a sun.
finish one sentence.
You like
because
it, though?
you constantly talk over me. So can you prove that with parallel lines you can have shadow in one on one place and no shadow on the other with parallel lines?
What, with light being parallel?
Yeah, sun rays being parallel.
Well, I'd say though, if you look at
shadow in
look
one
at
place
look
and,
at the
and no
picture I've
shadow
got
in the
there.
other.
Have you got seen the
Well,
picture I've
those
got
are
there?
not parallel lines.
No, the two parallel ones are parallel. The verticals are parallel.
No, the verticals are parallel, not the light rays.
Yeah, the one that says not parallel.
So we're not talking about the same thing.
But that's where the sun would be.
No, we're talking about
the sun. The sun's shining light down vertically on that.
I got
that one.
Bev. I got it. Your argument is that I must assume a globe in order to have the shadow, and I don't.
Well, what they see that's
Yes,
that's the geometric version.
No,
Look,
I
Shaky.
don't.
Can you see that is the geometric version? In
In
order for you to do whatever you wanted to do and what Eratosthenes wanted to do, he would have had to have gone against that geometric understanding.
You want to bake Eratosthenes? Go ahead and do it. We're talking about Eratosthenes, which assumed parallel lines, and it does need to assume.
Well, that is parallel lines. That is parallel lines, though. All the horizontals and all of the verticals are parallel. That's what we're doing.
You're acting stupid now because we're talking about parallel light rays.
No, that's parallel within Euclidean geometry. That's parallel.
No, we're talking about the assumptions made by Eratosthenes.
Yeah, but see, this is where I was saying at the beginning, Shaky. Well, yeah, but what Euclid did, and when he wrote his geometry, he wasn't talking about light. He was talking about these lines in reality, vertical and horizontal.
Light rays are not lines in reality, Bev.
Well, not over the fact of vertical and horizontal.
Shaky, behave.
You have nothing to say, neither of you, because I'm talking about parallel sunlight rays, and you keep talking about verticals. No, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about parallel light sun rays, and you don't need anything.
You want to use parallel sun rays to disprove
anything else
verticals being parallel.
Rays, parallel light sun rays. If this is true, you don't need anything else to show that those verticals are not parallel. End of story. You have nothing to say
but
about
the verticals geometrically are parallel, Shaky, aren't they?
Go about it, Bev. You can't get it. Your mind is
no. I'm trying to say to you, Beddy.
Don't,
Shaky.
I'm not Beddy.
Well, you sounded a bit like him. So
no.
In this, what I'm saying is the geometric understanding is this. These are the parallel lines that would be produced through the geometry. That Beddy is particularly using.
No, that's nothing to do with what Beddy presented.
Yeah, it is. He particularly used parallel lines within Euclid.
Your sunlight rays are not parallel, so it has nothing to do with what Beddy said.
Yeah, he did. He used Euclid.
I know he used parallel sunlight rays. Not parallel.
No, he didn't. He didn't have anything to do with parallel sunlight rays.
No, everyone
saw I'll get it again, Shaky.
Go ahead. Okay, get it again.
And we'll read the assumption that Beddy put in here. Oh, yeah, right, sure.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
And then what will we do?
Then you go and fetch for me the definition of establish.
Okay, right. Here we go, Beddy. You ready? Says straight lines falling on parallel straight lines make the alternate angles equal. Euclid, proposition 129. Where does it say about light rays in there?
Go on.
Straight lines falling on parallel straight lines make the alternate angles equal. You could say vertical, horizontal.
Go on. Did Beddy finish there?
Yeah, that was it. Number 4. That was one of his
number
assumptions.
4. That's when he finished.
Mm-hmm.
He said nothing more.
There's nothing.
He said nothing more.
Nothing in that one. It's number 4, Chaiki. I'll read it again. I'll read it again for you. Straight lines falling on parallel straight lines make the alternate angles equal.
That's from Euclid, right?
Yep.
Okay, now let's go to the diagram.
So vertical
and
horizontal, Chaiki, are straight lines that would be falling across each other and make the alternate angles equal 90 degrees, always. Every time.
Did Beddy mention anything about vertical? Here.
Perpendiculars, Chaiki.
They are in the picture.
Beddy
show a picture, and on the picture there are two. Go and see. It is in the chat.
I want everyone to see, not just me.
Everyone has seen it.
Yeah,
during
that picture, the
please
light
don't
rays,
interrupt.
During were parallel, nothing else was parallel.
You think that if you will be shouting more and more, you will be more audible?
You lying because the only thing parallel in this picture is sunlight rays.
I am talking about verticals because you said that there is nothing about verticals. Yes, they are in the picture. These two sticks, these two sticks are supposedly vertical.
Supposedly.
Yes, because on the globe model they are not parallel, but still you call them verticals, and they are converging to the center of the globe.
Did they cast shadow?
It doesn't matter. I am talking about two verticals which are in the picture, and you said there are no verticals in the picture. So I think that you are lying.
Diagram. Don't talk without the diagram. I can't see it. We can talk about it.
You can scroll back and see it.
You can scroll back.
Well,
yes.
I can't, but not everyone else who's looking at the stream.
So why
I think everybody's getting pissed off with you, Chaiki, and they're leaving again.
No, they get
You're making my members leave, Chaiki, with your shitty argument.
I can make you members leave.
Yeah, they're pissed off with you, Chaiki. They don't want to hear you.
Definitely.
You talk shit.
No, that's not.
Yeah, you've got no argument, Chaiki.
Why did you brought?
It's obvious you have no argument.
I did brought my argument. You didn't counter it. You talked shit from here till the cows come home. That's what you did. You didn't address anything. You brought what you want to bring, not what Beddy was talking about.
Okay. Well, you deal with the fact that straight lines crossing two parallel straight lines make the equal angles. Would that not be vertical and horizontal?
What?
Or could vertical and horizontal not apply to that you've got there?
Two parallel lines.
So there are parallel lines, but just not anything that's perpendicular.
Two parallel lines that don't cross two lines, but one of them is creating a shared light segment with those lines, and the other one is in an angle to those lines. Those two lines are not parallel.
So you're saying that you're going to use parallel lines to be able to say that vertical and horizontal aren't parallel. Right. You're going with Eratosthenes, right? You think Eratosthenes has a proof for that.
Well, do you have a proof to the counter that parallel, that light rays, sunlight rays are not parallel?
No.
Go
For
ahead.
straight lines, Chaiki, not light.
That's the argument.
No, this is geometry, Chaiki.
No, that's the
yes,
argument.
Euclid didn't do If you read it, I'll say it again, Chaiki. I will say it again, Chaiki. All right, I'll go back again. This is the last time I'm going to say it, and I'm not doing it again. It says straight lines falling on parallel straight lines make the alternate angles equal.
Right.
Euclid, proposition 129.
Good. Yes. So what?
Right, so there's nothing mentioning light.
No, it's talking about parallel lines.
It's talking about geometry.
Parallel lines.
Geometry, it's talking about Euclidean geometry.
Parallel lines.
Yes.
Yes, not light.
Yes,
not
parallel
light.
lines. No.
Not light.
Now,
brilliant.
Eratosthenes says sunlight rays come parallel. Do you have any proof they don't?
Do you have any proof they do?
No.
Yes.
Can you prove they
Chaiki,
don't?
yes.
Until
Chaiki, yes. If you are doing geometry, look at my
Bring
drawing.
the
I'll
proof.
put it back up on the picture again. I'll put it back up. The sun, if it is above on a circle, if it is above 1 point on a circle, Chaiki, how can it be parallel? How?
Again, if it is, Ben.
You're asking me if I have any proof, and I'm saying yes. Yes, Chaiki.
Well,
look at the picture.
Bring the proof.
If it is above one of the lines to cast no shadow, then how can the light from it be parallel on the other thing?
It will be very hard to explain to you, babe, since you
Well, just try. Go on, give us your best.
Here, I'm telling you why it's hard to explain to you. Because you need to ask someone what is a 1 arc second of a 500 meters. You can't do it yourself. So you won't be able to understand why they come parallel. There's no way you can. Because you can't do the math.
Parallel lines, Chaiki.
Yeah,
geometry.
if they're far enough, they're coming from a source far enough, you wouldn't distinguish them from parallel or not parallel because the angle will be that small.
So now you are making another assumption that
It's
the
not
distance.
assumption.
Yes, it is.
That's why I'm asking you for a proof that they are not parallel. Because nobody ever could measure them not to be parallel. If you can measure them, they are always parallel. Well, go ahead, show me the proof.
The geometric proof is there right in front of you, Chaiki.
The proof, the physical proof.
Yeah, the Chaiki. The geometric proof is right there. It's very logical, Chaiki. You cannot have them all being perpendicular. You can't have vertical being perpendicular to horizontal, and then a distance between 2 points, and then another vertical that is also perpendicular to horizontal. There, it's in that picture. It's in the picture.
Well, your picture sucks. Bring me proof.
Geometric proof there, right in front of you.
Yeah, I want you to draw a picture that this is 5,000 stadia and the sun is 93 million
5,000
miles away.
stadia.
Draw that picture.
Straight line
Draw
distance.
that picture. We'll talk.
And you can prove, you cannot disprove that for example, the sun is very close and the light is divergent.
It's easily disproven. What you're talking about.
Go, proof, please show.
Yeah, well.
Give us the geometric version of yours to go with this one, please.
You measure 2 angles. That's how you prove it.
No. Can you see? Can you see this picture? Mike Jones posted.
Yeah.
Can you see in live chat?
Yeah.
Yes. Are they divergent or are they parallel?
What?
Sun rays.
Yes, they're divergent.
Divergent.
Right.
Proof. So.
No, it's not a proof. It's not
yes,
a proof.
It is.
If you take 2 measurements of those angles, you'll be proving they are not on flat surface.
We are not talking about surface. Chaiki, we are not talking about surface. We are talking about divergent light, which is shown. Yes, divergent light, not parallel, of course.
Well,
so divergent means not parallel.
Measure the angles of 2 light rays.
So on this picture,
you will see that those verticals cannot be.
I can see with my naked eye that on Mike Jones' picture, this light
He has only
is.
one. He has only one, not two.
So you need 1,000 pictures?
No, you need two angles to measure. Two angles, not one, two. Two angles, end of story. Not parallel.
On this picture, this light is not parallel. I can see that. I can
No, not
distinguish.
that it's not. No, the light is parallel.
Yes,
The
on this
angles
picture
you
it is not.
measures of the shadows will not be the sticks you have will not be parallel.
I will not say what it will be or not will be.
You don't
I
say.
can see.
Yeah, really.
I
What do
say
you say?
what
What do
I
you say
see.
then?
Yes, I say
What do
what
you
I
see? You
see
see
on this
lines on
picture.
paper.
You
see lines on paper. Who cares?
No, this is
Who
picture.
cares?
This
Go
is
and measure.
this is photo.
Go and
Photo.
measure. Go
So
and measure light
photo
rays.
supposedly
Go and measure
give us a picture
sunlight
of
rays.
reality. So this is picture of
Paper, go and
reality.
measure sunlight rays, okay? We'll
Not
talk.
measure. I can see
No,
them
no, what
diverging.
you can see that what something Mike
can-
Jones put on a paper, what does it prove?
Could we not
It
measure
proves that-
verticals
it
and
proves-
horizontals being
It
perpendicular?
proves, Jakey, it proves that the light is not parallel.
No, it proves that Mike Jones can draw lines on a paper.
He didn't draw. He just
it came by
brought.
itself.
He brought a picture. It means photo. So you don't
this
believe
one-
that photo.
Wait. How far is the sun according to this picture? Where's
We
the
don't
sun?
know.
It's just parallel,
I don't
Stop
care.
changing
I don't
the
care.
argument.
Those angles are converging to a point. You can easily tell me where the sun is.
So they can't be parallel, can they? If they form a triangle, Chaiki.
If you follow the convergence of this line, that you think the sun will be less than 50 miles up.
Maybe
maybe,
so
but we know it's
nothing
from
to
there.
do with that. Parallel, Chaiki. Keep your fucking
How do you
mouth
know?
on it.
Well,
how do you know?
Perspective, if you know anything about anything, you will know that those lines are parallel.
Yeah. The sun is above you.
Go ahead and measure them. Don't tell me.
How about that, Chaiki? The sun is above you.
Parallel. They are parallel, 100%.
No, and the last photo. The last photo. On this last photo, you can even see that the light is going backward, not only forward. It is not. Why you are over talking over some other people? This is not polite. On this last picture of Mike Jones posted, we have light rays coming into the viewer and backward. They are going to the sides and are going backward even.
That's what you
Can
think.
you see that?
That
they are going backward?
That's what you think.
No, what I see. They are going backward.
That's what you think.
How can you see?
I'll repeat myself.
This is getting old, Chaiki. No one's getting anywhere with you. It's obvious that you've got no argument.
You see.
Just obfuscation, Chaiki. And you're
That's
not even good at that.
Chaiki, so you are defying your own senses. So
no, I'm not.
I can see that
I'm not,
this light, this rise.
If you go and measure the angle to the sun from
I'm not measuring. I am seeing that.
Well, that's your problem. That you see. You don't understand what you see.
I have no problem with
see something you don't see. That's
I see.
problem,
no,
paper.
You don't see. You are defying your senses.
I see the same thing as you.
Yes, so you can see. So you can see this light is going backward in all directions. Yes, perspective is telling me that these lights, no, they are going in all directions. All backward, forward, left, right, in all directions. I can see that because I can see perspective. Yes, Chaiki, this is brilliant proof. It is very good that you brought up perspective because of perspective we can see for sure. Why? Because we can see for sure Because we can see for sure.
Because you didn't stop talking.
Yes, because
Why?
Why?
Stop talking. I'm telling you
I
why.
am not
Because
finished yet. I am not finished yet.
when you're
I am
going
not
to be
finished yet.
finished, that's your problem. You started.
If
You don't
Chaiki
know where
shouts
you
long enough,
began.
paper, you won't be able to talk. That's his
You
theory
start,
here.
you
It's
don't
just
know where you
filibuster.
Yes, I
finish.
know that
Filibuster.
tactic.
I'm amazed you didn't talk about
I know that tactic, Chaiki.
perpendiculars now.
Yes, no, we are talking about pictures with divergent light.
Right.
Because you are saying that light is parallel, and on pictures we
Right.
can see that they are not parallel. That's the
Right.
point. Yes,
So
you remember now.
do
Okay,
parallel
good.
line, do parallel line converge due to perspective, or do they not? What?
Yes, they
Yes, thank you very much.
Yes,
Thank you very much.
but you missed one point, that in our eye they are converging.
Right. But
Converging.
they're still parallel, aren't
Yes,
they?
converging, not
But they are still
diverging.
parallel.
Not diverging,
Are you
converging.
sure?
Yes.
Are you
yes.
sure? Are you sure?
Yes, because we have lens which converges the light, not
They
diverge.
converging, they
We are
diverging.
haven't got
diverging.
diverging
How do you know?
because
if they're
because
converging or
this light
diverging?
has to be focused on very
How do
small
you know
area,
if they're
on very
converging
why
or
are you are
diverging?
over talking?
I'm
On
asking you, how
very
do you know they converge or diverge?
Chaiki,
Because-
please stay quiet now and let paper
because
answer.
the big picture of our world is focused in a very small area of our retina. So that's why
That
I
makes
know
things
that they
very
are
clear.
converging. Because
Anyone knows what he
big
said?
picture in very small eye, it means
Yeah.
they have to converge. Simple.
Have to converge. Really? So those
Yes.
lights converge or diverge? They
I
come from the
said
sun.
in eye. So
They come from the
we
sun. Do they converge or
but
diverge?
from the sun they are diverging, because
Right.
you wanted to prove that they are diverging because converging in our eye. This is non sequitur.
No,
Bravo.
I didn't say anything about converging and nothing about our eye. I was talking about perspective again. You
Perspective,
make up stuff
yes,
I never said, paper.
Yes, perspective.
You
Perspective
delusional.
is
You hear things in
no
your head.
perspective is perspecto in Latin. Perspecto, to see through. So specto means see. So this is
that
our
help us.
vision.
That
Yes,
help us a lot now. That help us.
perspecto. Yes,
That
to
really
see
help us.
through.
That now you go to the Latin roots of this.
Yes,
word.
Yes, thank you very much.
what-
It makes it very clear.
Yes.
Well, really, what did he make clear, Bev? Can you repeat what he said?
He was
A
telling
perspective.
us. Yeah.
Perspective
No,
is
shut up now. You turn the
no.
Chaiki.
You are
Chaiki.
not, Chaiki. You are not the host here.
Bev
You
will
are not the
repeat what
host
you
here.
said.
Chaiki.
Huh?
Chaiki, shut up.
Can you repeat what he said, Bev?
There you go.
I said that perspective is from perspecto. It means our vision. So how we see things. So it is connected, of course, with our vision. So in our eye, the rays are, or whatever, lines, straight, parallel lines are converging. They are still straight, but they are not parallel and converging. But it doesn't prove diverging sunrise, because according to Chaiki's argumentation, they should converge, which is nonsense, of course. So I am sorry, but converging sun rays in our eye cannot prove that the sun's rays are not divergent. So this is non sequitur. But maybe Chaiki has not very good day.
On the screen there is a few definitions. One of them's what we call the triangle axiom. It states that if a straight line falling on two straight lines make the interior angles on the same side less than 2 right angles. The 2 straight lines, if produced indefinitely, meet on the side on which the angles are less than the 2 right angles. Put a GIF up of it before. It basically means, because there's a definition there as well, parallel straight lines are such as are in the same plane and which being produced ever so far both ways do not meet. That's in Euclidean geometry. That's the only geometry, the geometry of reality, that has parallel lines. None of the other geometries have parallel lines like that. So the very fact that Cheike is using parallel lines means that Cheike is using Euclidean geometry. Now, the very fact of this and Cheike using these parallel lines, it means that verticals are parallel. There's no way to disprove the geometry involved. If Cheike's using parallel lines, Cheike's using Euclidean geometry, and Euclidean geometry is the geometry that gives us proof. And therefore, there is proof that verticals are all parallel.
Is that what you were trying to say, Bev, with your drawing that you put up? Because I for one, didn't hear any of your explanation, because Cheike is just ridiculous. He won't let anybody else talk. He thinks it's his show.
Yeah.
So can you explain
I'll go back and
drawing
get the drawing
again? Thank
right.
you.
Okay.
I appreciate that. For those of us that would actually like to hear it.
All we had from Beddy was numbers. There's a distance. There's place A and place B, and a distance of 5,000 stadia. It's just a straight line with a number on it. I mean, the number makes of no difference whatsoever. It's a straight line from A to B. And then at A, you've got a vertical. And at B, you've got a vertical. Well, the vertical's perpendicular to a horizontal, and that's how you measure a distance from A to B. Horizontal, straight line, there's your distance. Vertical at one end, vertical at the other end. Vertical is perpendicular to horizontal. They're both equal angles, therefore parallel lines, through the proposition that they said. Straight lines, if there is a straight line crossing them and they have equal angles, they're parallel. Especially if they're 90 degrees. That would make 180 degrees. And as everybody knows, in order to make a triangle, you have to have 180 degrees. And if those 180 degrees are within 2 angles, the triangle can never be formed, because all of the angles are within 2 angles, 90 and 90, 180. You can't make a triangle. Verticals are parallel geometrically. It's no big deal. Everybody knows this.
This is the point where Beddy refused to admit that this is circular reasoning, but it is, because in this so-called experiment, the author, whoever he was, had to assume that verticals are not parallel to have this outcome. So it means that he had to assume spherical or whatever, not planar shape of the surface. Therefore, it is called circular reasoning when you are seeking for outcome and you have assumed this outcome in your premises. So this is circular reasoning. Sorry, but that's it. Beddy didn't agree with that, but I can repeat it, and it is, for me, this is self-evident that this is circular reasoning.
It has been for me as well, ever since I first heard Eratosthenes. That's a load of shit. It's a load of rubbish. You've got a place A and a place B, and you've got a distance between them. That's a straight line. Like a straight line. And to put perpendiculars at either end of it, geometrically makes it just like that I've drawn there. It may be a very basic drawing, but it is very simple. These ideas. In order for Chaiki to decide whatever he wanted to do, he would have to draw something other than that. But that wouldn't follow the very basic geometric principles that horizontal and vertical are perpendicular, as known to everyone. Somebody keeps saying as well, I've heard some people saying that these have been measured. In which case they would have to have measured that vertical and horizontal are not perpendicular. And I've never heard anybody say that. Ever. And since we have a proof that the water level or level is horizontal, we can prove the horizontal. And if we can prove the horizontal, then you can prove perpendiculars at either end or anywhere along it. And if you can prove the perpendiculars to the horizontal, then you can prove that verticals are parallel. Obviously, it's just geometry. But you'd have to go against the geometry somehow. Oh, that's a point I got as well. Got a video. I did a little
geometry and logic, because circular reasoning is logical fallacy.
Yeah.
And so if you are using this circular reasoning as an argument and as a proof, it disproves itself.
Right, it's a little video. I've got this on YouTube. I'm just going to play it now. It's about 1 minute. I've clipped a few bits together. The Globers will love this one. Ready?
By listening and understanding you more on.
Well done, Brenda.
Do the points of constant elevation form a plane on the Earth? Well done, Brenda. But what he doesn't understand is that the term level is for a constant elevation. Well done, Brenda. What's meant by a flat earther? That's what a flat earther believes. Points of constant elevation form a perfect horizontal plane. Well done, Brenda. But what he doesn't understand is that the term level is for a constant elevation. Yes. That makes you a flat earther. Sorted. Well done, Brenda. Yeah. No, on the globe, points of constant elevation form a sphere. You utter moron. Well done, Brenda. You utter moron. But what he doesn't understand is that the term level is for a constant elevation. Points of constant elevation on the sphere, on the globe, form another spherical surface. You utter idiot. Well done, Brenda. But what he doesn't understand is that the term level is for a constant elevation. Yes. That makes you a flat earther. Sorted. Well done, Brenda. Can I just finish that point, though? Remember, the Earth is incredibly flat. Well done, Brenda. The Earth is very flat. Sorted. Well done, Brenda.
Well done, Brenda. That's Rumpus and the elevation of the Earth. He says, if you think all elevation profiles are on a equal elevation or on a horizontal plane, then you're a flat earther. So on a globe, they have to be sphere shaped. They have to be. They just have to be.